Hey guys, it's Megan. Welcome back to another video and welcome to the library. Today is my last day before spring break. Yay! I'm about to be off work for 11 days. So let's just make this short and sweet and let me tell you about the books that I read in the month of March. So I read 4 full books in the month of March and about half of some other books. So I'm going to tell you just in order of what I read. And the first book that I read is The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp. I listened to the audiobook for this one and I really enjoyed it. It's a young adult kind of mystery thriller, contemporary realistic fiction kind of book. And I honestly read this one just because I had done some book talks on it in the library to my students when they came with their English classes. This book, the only reason I read it is because it sounded like it was about a criminal versus other criminals. And I love that idea. I don't know. I love morally great characters, so that sounded really cool. But it's about a girl whose mom was a con artist and taught her to be many different girls and told her like 3 traits that every single one of them had to be. And that's how she grew up, conning men out of their money, basically, including like a mob boss person who now is kind of out to get her. Anyway, so she is finally away from that life, but she finds herself in the very beginning of the book, at the first chapter, she is in the middle of a bank robbery with her 2 friends. And she kind of has romantic relationships or had romantic relationships with both of them. One's a boy, one's a girl. And she is trying not to lose those friends and let them know about her. One of them knows about her past and the other one does not. And she doesn't want to lose her because of the things that she's done in the past and the girls she's been. But she has to use her ways and go back to being some of the girls she's been in the past and using their characteristics to be able to beat the bank robbers. And she can think like them and she can manipulate them. It was a little bit darker than I expected, honestly. It's pretty intense. It was not bad. I actually enjoyed it for the most part. I did wish it focused a little bit more on the bank robbery, and the chapters that were about the past felt sometimes kind of long. Like they'd be like 40 minutes long, but then the next chapter about the bank robbery would be 5 minutes long, like when I was listening to it. So I did wish it was a little more in the present. But other than that, I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I would highly recommend. It's also being turned into a movie starring Millie Bobby Brown. I think it comes out this year. The next book I read was also 4 stars, and that is Redemptor by Jordan Afueco. And this is the sequel and final book, because it's only 2 of them, in the like Ray Bear series. I don't know if it has a name, but the first one's Ray Bear, and I read that last summer. I read it for school, and I had to annotate it and make discussion questions, and I really enjoyed it. It was actually one of the best young adult fantasies that I think I've ever read, because I really enjoyed the world building. It was really intense. And I saw, what's her name? Leanna. Yeah, Leanna. She has a YouTube channel and she hated it. She just gave it 1 star recently. I guess she thought it was a bunch of fantasy stuff, like tropes and everything stuck into one book, and it was too much. But I actually liked that. I thought it was a lot, but that's why I enjoyed it, I guess. So this one is the finale, and I knew what was going to happen going into it based on what happens at the end of the first book, so I can't really tell you what this one's about. But even the title kind of gives away what it's about a little bit once you learn what a Redemptor is in the first book. But the part that I was really looking forward to, what I knew was going to be happening in this book, did not happen until about the last 3/4 of the book. And the first part, this was all very kind of slow moving with stuff I didn't care about, waiting to get to this part because I knew this part was happening. Like that's what the premise was supposed to be based on how the first one ended. And it's so rushed. It's so rushed. So I wish this had been the focus of the book and less of this. But it was still really good. I still enjoyed the world building. Still don't really care about the characters as much. There are some new characters that I cared about more than I did the old ones. And I know most people are like, oh man, we missed the old characters. Well, I didn't like the old characters as much. So I actually like the new characters introduced in this one a lot better. They kind of send the main love interest away. And I don't care about him anyway, so I'm totally fine with him not being in it. But anyway, so Redemptor, Jordan Afueco, I would give this duology, I would give both of them 4 stars, and I would highly recommend. Unfortunately, the next book I read was also a 2-star read, and I'm not continuing the series, and that is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. I was going to save this for maybe Halloween time or spooky season a little bit more so, but I went ahead and read it now because some of my students talked about it a lot and I did not enjoy it. Basically, it's about a girl who has, you guys already know this, everybody knows what this book's about, I feel like, or has talked about it a lot, and let me just tell you why I didn't like it. I liked the atmosphere. I will give it that. So maybe I would give it 2.5 stars because I loved the atmosphere. The writing itself wasn't even bad. It was just, there was only one story thread. Like that was it. It was a girl like trying to find her sister. right? And it doesn't even get solved. Like she doesn't find out what happens to her sister. Well, I say find out what happens to her. Her sister, her twin, was murdered, and she's trying to figure out who did it. And she has to call up this prince of hell, and she calls up Wrath. Well, she doesn't mean to, she does accidentally. And the kind of strange romance between them, which is almost like non-existent, but I guess is gonna be more so in the second book, I just didn't care. I didn't care at all. Wrath is supposed to be cool, I guess, but he's not. Like, the character development with him was not very good. I liked the main character, honestly. Like, she was good. Yeah, like I said, the atmosphere is very dark, and it's set in Italy, and her family owns a restaurant, so there's like descriptions of food and stuff and Italian words, and I liked all that. Like I said, so the atmosphere was cool. And honestly, what I think is going to be happening in the second book, based on how this one ends, it actually sounds pretty good. But it was just so straightforward, if that makes any sense. Like, just one very linear plot with like nothing extra, and it's like, I need more. I need like subplots or something. So it was just fine, you know? So if you're into that, maybe you'll like this one, but maybe 2.5 stars. Unfortunately, the next book I read, which is the last full book that I finished, was also only 2 stars. It was probably my least favorite book I read this month. And that is Neon Gods by Katie Robert. I finally did it. I read it. So this is a romance. I say romance. I mean, it's so silly though. It's like, I don't even know, very like smutty type romance. It's set in a very modern version of Olympus, where Olympus is a modern city, but you don't get much description of the setting. Like, if you had more description of it, sure, but like, that's not the focus of the book. And here's the strange part. Here was the issue with the book. The plot is happening, like there's actually plot for maybe the first, like, I don't know, 80 pages or something, or 70 it looks like. Then it's all like smutty romance stuff that is silly. Then about the last, I don't know, 80 pages of the book, stuff is happening again. Like, there's actually, it's about the plot, and now there's no smutty stuff. So the tone is so weird. It's like plot with, you know, Greek mythology stuff kind of going on at the beginning and end, with just a bunch of romance in between that could have been between anyone. That's my problem. And I saw someone else say this, so I'm glad I wasn't the only one that thought this, that this could be anybody. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling, but these characters could have been anyone. It did not matter that it was Hades and Persephone. Just change their names, and it had nothing to do with the story. Besides the fact they throw in, like, oh yeah, Zeus is the kind of villain. I mean, besides all that, it had nothing to do with Greek mythology. So I just didn't really care, and I only finished it because somebody bought it for me, and so I just felt bad that it was a gift and I didn't read it. So ironically, my mother-in-law bought this for me, and it's definitely not a book a mother-in-law would probably be interested in reading, but I'm probably gonna give this one away. And I'm not going to continue with the series because I know there's a second one, and I don't even know why there's a second one, because the story wraps up in the first one. You could just read this one. But anyway, 2 stars. It was not very good, but it is very pretty. Finally, I'm in the middle of 2 more books that I just want to shout out. Oh, I forgot to tell you about my DNF. Oh my gosh, I also DNF'd House of Earth and Blood, the first book in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. The bell's gonna ring soon, so I don't have time to go into all the reasons why I did not like this book, and DNF'd it at 14% in, which is still a lot because this thing's like 800 pages. I'm done with Sarah J. Maas. I just don't like her anymore. I don't like the writing. It was stupid. It was like the characters, just the way they talk. It was trying to be like hip and cool, and like, it was just not realistic. I mean, it's not realistic anyway, but the fact that they said the word male, like, oh, the male did this, I was like, nope, I'm done. That's why I hated Court of Thorns and Roses towards the end, because it kept saying mate and male all the time, and I was like, why? So she's at it again with those words, and I couldn't take it, and I just didn't care about anything that was happening. It sounded like it should be interesting, but it wasn't, so I was not gonna waste my time on it, and no more Sarah J. Maas for me. Now the 2 books I'm in the middle of, I briefly started this book that my mom bought me for Christmas, which is called The Read Aloud Family, Making Meaningful and Lasting Connections with Your Kids, and this is nonfiction. I really do enjoy nonfiction when I read it, I just never pick it up. So I'm only, I don't know, 58 pages in, so not very far, but so far it's really interesting. It's not saying anything that I don't know yet, so I'm hoping there's more like research in here about, it tells you like how to prepare your kids for academic success through reading to them, developing empathy and compassion in your kids through books, finding time to read aloud like when you're busy, choosing books for different age ranges and interests. So apparently there are a list of books in here, but I mean, I'm a librarian. I feel like I probably already know a lot of books and I have textbooks about like children's literature. So I don't know that I will need this book, because so far, like I said, I've not learned anything new. It's just kind of motivated me though to read more out loud to my baby. And the other book that I'm almost halfway through, I think I'm like 47% because I listened to it for like 2 hours in the middle of the night when I was holding the baby because he's sick and wouldn't sleep last night. So from like 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. this morning, I listened to this audiobook. But anyway, I am listening to Lost Gods by Brahm. I'll tell you more about this book next month because I first thought it was going to be at first I thought it was just gonna be weird and then I would just think it's okay. Then it was a 5-star prediction once I read about 20% of the book. I was like, oh man, this could be 5 stars. Now it's getting weird. I mean, I knew it was weird already, but like it's not going exactly where I thought it was going to. I guess it's bogged down a little bit. It's a little slower in the middle because most of it turns out is set in purgatory. So I just kind of want more to happen now at this point, I guess. And it's all about like the politics of purgatory, which is strange. But there's like demons and lost gods and it's dark and it's bleak. But it's about a man who is just trying to save himself and his wife and their, he's gonna marry her, fiance, I guess, an unborn child from something that I almost spoiled, just from something, let's just say that. Honestly, the kind of villain was very surprising in this. Even that's kind of a spoiler to tell you that. But anyway, I won't say anymore. It's super, super weird, as you can tell by the cover. I'm kind of sad because I don't have the physical copy, and I guess Brahm does his own illustrations, so I don't know what they look like. I'm gonna have to Google them, but I can only imagine that based on this cover, they are probably pretty weird. So those are all the books I read in February. Not February, I don't even know what month it is. March. 2 4-star reads, 2 2-star reads. Not the best reading month. I mean, I guess average of 3 stars, so it's fine. I'm reading The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons next month, so I'm super excited. I'm starting it over spring break, and we're gonna see how that goes because I hear such mixed reviews, but I think I'm gonna love it, so we'll see. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys read in the month of March, and I will see you again soon. Bye.